What if I told you that our clients have generated an extra 1.3 billion in sales using this one technique? It's called NEPQ. I'm going to break it down for you. This is important. You want to write this down if you want to sell, persuade, or influence more 100%. Okay, so NEPQ, this is what it stands for. So my background, behavioral science, neuropsychology, that's what I went to school for, okay? So neuro, in the N stands for neuro. That stands for how does the brain work in conjunction with the nervous system. Now, would it be important for you to understand what your prospect is thinking right when you first start talking to them? And how do you disarm them to get their nervous system down? Because what causes a prospect to say, oh, we're good, or no, we're not interested, or oh, we already have somebody for that at the beginning of a sales conversation? It's their nervous system is being triggered typically by your tonality or maybe your body language, even if they can't see you, because your body language affects your tone, and that triggers their nervous system where the guard goes up, sales resistance. So what if we could show you how to get this to go down, calm and relaxed, okay? That's a big difference. So how does the brain work with your prospect's nervous system? Once you master that, selling becomes actually really, really easy, okay? Second thing, so the E stands for emotional. When I say emotional, that means the emotional connection that you have with your prospect, okay? Do human beings buy on logic or emotion? Emotion 100%. There's no debate in brain science on this, okay? So if we can't help our prospects relive their pain of their current situation, their past history, and then have a fear, that's an emotion, a fear of future pain, they feel no need to what? To change. And that's why you get lots of objections, and that's why they ultimately don't buy from you, okay? So in order to influence at the highest level, Tony Robbins talks a lot about this. I always take it a step further. In order to emotionally connect, you have to master how to emotionally connect with them where they feel like you understand them, their needs, their desires, their fears, their wants, without buying into their story. Their story could be, I need to think it over. I need to do more research. I need to keep looking around. Call me back later when I'm not so busy, or I need to talk to my spouse if you sell to consumers. That's a story. If I buy into that story, I offer them no value. I cannot solve their problems and get them where they want if they do not buy. So the emotional connection, I have to go there first where they feel like I understand them. I'm going there first. It's an emotional connection. You don't get an emotional connection by asking surface level, vague, generalized questions like, what are some challenges you're having? Or what keeps you awake at night? Or you tell me two problems. Those are surface level questions. Your prospect knows where those questions lead, okay? This is the key to NEPQ, the emotional connection. That's where the human being lets their guard down and becomes open to what you're offering. That's where change happens, okay? Persuasion. Now, this is how you frame the questions you ask. So how do you frame your offer? Whoever frames their solution best will always make the sale. Now, what do I mean by frames it the best? Let me give you an example. Would you say Jeffrey Bezos was the only person that came up with a concept like Amazon? Unlikely. There's probably other people that thought about that or had it out there, but Jeffrey made history. That's why he has his company, because he was able to frame it better. He was better to communicate his offer better. That's why he's there. Elon Musk, was he the only person that had the concept of the electrical car? Unlikely. He got to where he was at because he knew how to frame his solution and offer better. So that's what I'm talking about. So let's say that you have a family picture. So imagine your family picture up on your mantle at your house. You've got your spouse, your kids, or maybe your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, whatever. You got this frame, this picture. You got two pictures, same exact picture. You go to the store, you buy two separate frames, okay? One frame is like immaculate. It's like gold, just looks the most beautiful frame ever. You put that around that family picture. The next frame, you go to like a flea market, and it's got holes in it. It's a cheap frame. It looks like it just looks bad. Okay, it's got cobwebs on it, just beat up frame. And you put it around that same family picture. Which one are you going to choose? The one that's framed better, that looks nicer. The frame looks better. It's framed better. Same picture, but because of the frame, you chose that option. So persuasion stands for I'm framing my offer much better. I'm actually getting them to persuade themselves. That's called self-persuasion. Rather than me telling you why you should do something, what if you learned how to get your prospect to tell themselves why they should do something? Which is more persuasive? You telling them why they should, or them telling themselves why they should buy? I think you know the difference, okay? Hey guys, Jeremy Miner here. Look, a lot of you leave comments wanting me to help you sell more. So the easiest way to get a hold of me, the quickest way, is to text me. So text me right now. It's 480-637-2944. So 480-637-2944. Listen, I started this company to help you learn how to close more deals, but do it the right way. Text me right now. Let's get back to the training video. And then questioning, okay? So how am I reframing the questions to interrupt your prospect's pattern? So let me give you an example. What are prospects used to from salespeople? Like a standard question. Can you tell me 2 problems you're having? Can you give me some challenges that keep you awake at night? See, like I said earlier, they know where these questions lead. They recognize the pattern. Your brain recognizes patterns. So does your prospect. So I need to relanguage those type of questions. So let's say if I sold life insurance and you find out that they have a $50,000 work policy, instead of you saying, well, what do you feel like you need for coverage, or why do you feel like you need coverage? Because they know where that question leads. I might say, so you've already got the $50,000 work policy. What's caused you to feel like that might not be enough? Well, don't get me wrong, it's good, but, and then they tell you why they feel like what they have is not enough. But more importantly, who did they just tell? Themselves. Self-persuasion. See how I'm reframing the questions to interrupt the pattern, okay? Or let's say that you sell for a marketing agency to a company. I might reframe the question rather than saying, can you tell me some problems that you're having with your current leads? I might say, so you've been using XYZ vendor for the past 5 years. I mean, it can't be all doom and gloom. What do you like about what they've done? Well, we like this, we like that. What would you change about them if you could, though? Well, don't get me wrong. I mean, we like them, but see, I set it up by basically saying, I mean, it can't be all doom and gloom over there. What have they done well so far? So they're not used to that pattern. A few examples of reframing your questions. I could show you about 10 billion other things to do. So every question I developed within NEPQ does one of 4 things, okay? And I want you to write this down. Every question I have developed, every industry, first is designed to seed doubt about the prospect's current state or their current situation. So let's say if you're selling SaaS, like, and you sell some type of thing that automates something for a company and they have to manually do it, and you find out when you're going through like finding out what their situation is that they have to do it manually, I might lean and say, oh, so how long have they've been forcing you to have to do it manually for? See my facial expression, and did you hear my tone? How long have they been forcing you guys to have to do it manually for? Okay, I'm seeding doubt, okay? That maybe I know something that they don't have to be forced to do it manually that they don't know. Okay, so how I strictly use my tone. Also, NEPQ, every question I'm asking is designed to also prevent objections from happening in their mind. So let's say if you get a lot of spouse objections because you sell to consumers. Say you sold network marketing, you help them start their own business, they can make more money, have more time with their family. And let's say the prospect says, oh my gosh, you know, I work 75 hours a week. I'm then going to lean in and say, so how does your spouse feel about you having to work 75 hours a week? See, if I want to prevent the spouse objection, I have to somehow get the spouse involved in the problem and the consequences, right? How does she feel about you having to work 75 hours a week? Oh, she doesn't like it, blah, blah, blah. Does she want you to find something from home where you can have time with her? Oh, definitely she does, blah, blah. See, I'm starting to prevent that objection from happening. Now, there's more to that, but that's the start of getting that out of their mind, okay? Now, another reason why every NEPQ question I've developed is also designed to build the gap from where they are to where they want to be. Okay, I don't want to help them just find one problem because they might feel like they can solve that by themselves. But my questions, my tonality, how I do that, I want to help them find 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 other problems they didn't realize they actually have. So let's say, for example, we train a huge precious metals company out of California, a couple of them actually. And let's say that a prospect gets on the phone and they say, well, I'm looking to maybe invest in gold and silver because I want to protect myself against inflation. Oh, well, that's a big reason why people come to us. Let me tell you how we do that. And you sell to that one problem. What happens if they go home, they turn on Fox News or some news station, they're like, yeah, with the current administration, inflation's going down. Then they might come back and say, well, we don't really need gold or silver because inflation's going down. See, because you only sold to one problem. I want to help them find 2, 3, 4, 5 other problems where that gap's so big that even if they feel like that other problem doesn't exist, there's 4 other problems that they still have that they know they can't solve themselves. That's called building the gap. And then the 4th thing that every NEPQ question is designed to do is to get them into that future state where I take them out of price or cost-based thinking into results-based thinking. Remember, you're not selling the thing, you're selling the results of what your thing does. Okay, so if you're a business consulting, you're not selling consulting, you're selling the results what your consulting does, which is probably to drive more revenue and more profit and to scale the company. If you're a marketing agency, you're not selling leads, you're selling actually what? Better leads so they can grow the business, make more money, and scale, right? If you're, let's say, a life insurance agent, you're not selling them a policy, you're selling them the results of what happens when one spouse dies and the other spouse is financially protected forever. That's what you're selling. All right, so NEPQ is designed to do those 4 things. Now, you might not be aware of this, but like I said, I went to school for neuropsychology, behavioral science, is going to become a psychologist. And we are taught every human being you talk to, salesperson you talk to, human beings, has a frame. That's a belief system. So every human being you're going to talk to, every prospect has belief systems about you, the salesperson, right? Would you say that society in large views you as a high status, or do they view salespeople at a low status? They're low status. It's just the way it works. Now, the question is why? Society's conditioned everybody to view salespeople at a lower status, because what do you view a doctor as? Higher status, because that's how society teaches you to view them, right? But if you really think about it, why wouldn't salespeople be viewed at a higher status? Because if nothing is sold, that means there's no such thing as an economy. And who are the ones that sell things? You do, the salesperson. So you would think you would be higher status, because if you don't sell anything, there's no economy. If there's no economy, there's no such thing as what we call a society. Are you getting what I'm throwing down here, okay? So every human being has a belief system, all right? So belief systems are typically brought about from our childhood, from the ages of 4 till 13, by the people we raised, our parents, maybe the cousins we hung out with, the church we went to. If you're a kid now, even the influencers you follow on TikTok, they are triggering your worldview or your belief system or your current way of thinking. So what is a belief system that pretty much you have anytime a salesperson first starts talking to you? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when a salesperson first starts talking to you? How much is this going to cost? Now, why does your brain go there? Because you've been conditioned, you have that belief system, okay? So that's called cost-based thinking. Do I want my prospect to think about the cost the whole time I'm talking to them? Unlikely. I want them to think about the what? The end result. So how do I take them out of that frame or that way of thinking? That is called a deframe, okay? So I got to deframe them out of that, and then I want to reframe. That's the process, okay? So reframing is the process. How do I reframe them into a new belief system or a new frame about the results of what I do, not the cost, okay? So that is what NEPQ does. Now, if you want to learn, if you want to commit to master, if you want to master sales, persuasion, influence, and you want to learn how to do this for your industry, you got questions probably, I'm going to have you text me. So text me at this number, 480-637, I like the green, 2944. I love the green. We got to do more green here. So text me at this number, and myself or one of our sales trainers, we lock ourselves in this conference room for an hour a day, and we'll actually get back to you and answer your questions. Hope that gave you an idea of the technique that our clients, many of them are in your industry, have used to generate an extra, I think it's 1.35 billion in the last few years in extra sales. So text me if you have questions. Hope that helped you today.